Welcome back, everyone. This video is going to be the beginning of a new series where I'm going to be breaking down every song from the band 21 Pilots, going album by album. This is quite the undertaking, I know, but we're going to be starting today with the 2009 self-titled album, 21 Pilots. This album released December 29th, 2009, and is comprised of 14 tracks and with a runtime of an hour and 2 minutes. At the time of this album's release, drummer Josh Dunn had not even joined the band yet. And at this time in the band's history, the band was made up of three: Tyler Joseph, Chris Solly, and Nick Thomas. This is the first official release from the band, and it was all recorded, produced, and written by Tyler and his band in the basement. This album very much showcases an early eclectic 21 Pilots sound that would flesh itself out over the years, but I would characterize this album's specific sound as Midwest emo / alternative rock.
Someone hears our music, you feel like we're, when you're trying to fit us into a genre, we sound confused. We sound like we don't know what we like. But the truth is we know exactly what we like, and it's a lot of different things.
It actually peaked at 139 on Billboard's Top 200 in 2017 in the wake of the band's popularity after the release of Blurry Face. The album cover was designed by a friend of Tyler's named John Redstadt, which features an individual on a bed with toxic sludge coming out of their head. We can see a treehouse, a lock, a tire, a shoe, and buildings from what I presume are from the Columbus skyline. All of these items have importance to either the album or later works in their career, and I want to go back to the album cover at the end, as I believe it holds importance to what this album is actually trying to say to the audience. But without further ado, let's jump into the first track of the album. Also, these songs mean what they want to mean for you. These are just my opinions. Don't get upset at me in the comments, please. Implicit Demand for Proof is the first song off the self-titled album, and sets the tone for what this project is thematically going to be about. It is a piano rock ballad that begins with an almost waltz-like ambiance and abruptly transitions into a more apprehensive song about wrestling with doubt and the proof for the existence of God and/or God's absence in the wake of Tyler's questions and doubts. I know you're not a liar, and I know you can set fire this day. Go ahead and make me look away. Strike me down, I am calling your lightning down from your dark hiding place. Go ahead and show me your face. Verse 1 is about Tyler's desire to see evidence of not only God's existence, but God's awareness to his pleas. Go ahead and make me look away, in response to setting fire this day, could be a reference to the biblical kingdom of Sodom and Gomorrah, which were destroyed by raining hellfire. In this story, the angels of the Lord tell the characters of the story to not look at the destruction and run away instead. Coupled with the next line of baiting God to smite him with lightning, the main theme of this track reveals itself, a plea for the existence of a higher power, even at his own detriment, to reveal itself. The chorus, "Rain down and destroy me," has more than one meaning as well. The actual lyric being rain, R-E-I-G-N, signifies a use of power and dominion, while viewing it as rain, R-A-I-N, could be seen as the method in which God will destroy him, by such as a flood or a severe storm. Since the beginning of time, the higher powers of the world have been seen as having the ability to control weather as either a blessing or a punishment. Verse 2. I mean no disrespect, I am simply very perplexed by your ways. Why would you let us use your name? Verse 2 is somewhat of a tongue-in-cheek response to God's lack of proof in his life specifically. Why would you let us use your name? It's worth noting here that Tyler doesn't explicitly name God anywhere in this song as the object of his frustration and doubts. This is a question as to why someone so powerful and mighty, a being outside of reality, would make themselves known on any level to man. If there is a God, Tyler sees his demand for proof as something that is inherently natural, as, due to the circumstances or negative life experiences, his existence seems illogical. The track ends in a swirling storm of passion, anger, and screams of just what this track is named after: an implicit demand for proof, a plea for authentication from God, even if it's at the cost of his own life. I recently found this reel on Instagram about some backing vocals that were recently found and were isolated, So I'll play those at the end of this whole section here, just so you can kind of listen to those.
Lord, I need your strength. I need your strength. I need your strength. I need your strength. It's down! Right!
Fall Away is the second track off of the self-titled album and clocks in at 3 minutes and 2 seconds. It can be best classified as a piano-based rap track. Fall Away details a desire to not part ways with someone or something and succumb to his suppressive and oppressive tendencies. The chorus details: I don't want to fall away. I don't want to fall away. I'll keep the lights on in this place because I don't want to fall away. This falling away could be giving into depression or despair, or a fall away from faith, a common saying used by those who express doubt in God and his existence or goodness. This becomes clearer in verse 1.
I disguise and I will lie and I will take my precious time as a day's meant away as a standing line, and I die as I wait at my crime, and I try to delay what you make of my life, but I don't want your way. I want mine, I'm dying and I'm trying, but believe me, I'm fine, but I'm high. I'm so very far from fine.
Waiting in line is a theme that we'll see throughout this record, and it'll fully manifest itself in the album Closer to March to the Sea in a later track. This first verse details a mixture of laziness and contentness and comfort that is holding Tyler back from fulfilling from what he feels like God has called him to do. The pre-chorus details a wearing thin conscience and an idea that the longer he waits and the more he stagnates, the murkier his desires and capability to see and do good become.
Every time I be selfish, ambition is taking my vision, my crime is my sentence, repentance is taking commission, is taking a toll on my soul, I'm screaming submission, and I don't know if I'm dying or living, cause I'm a sake of face of a name, sake of abuse of grace, and taking aim to obtain a name and a new epistle, but my name is Islam, I can't walk in the entertainment, and my name is became the Genesis to the grave.
As Tyler realizes he has become more selfish and has given more and more into temptation, he finds himself doing quote-unquote good works out of a place of saving face. The intentions behind his desire to do good is more so about the appearance of being a good person than it is doing the good work itself. This internal strife mixed with his doubt about God's existence is like being split in two or falling away. The Pantaloon is the third track on the album and clocks in at 3 minutes and 33 seconds. The Pantaloon is a bit of an uneasy track backed by something akin to a harpsichord, I think. Traditionally, a Pantaloon is a comedic character in an Italian theater comedy that deliberately keeps lovers separated. Think of almost like a jester-like figure. This individual is usually an older man wearing pantaloons, which are long, baggy pants that ruffle at the ankles. This song is about generational cycles, whether it's mental sickness of the physical kind or of the mental kind, such as those that affect mental faculties such as dementia or Alzheimer's. The protagonist of the song ultimately cannot escape his inherited title of Pantaloon. Verse 1 begins with discussing how the person's grandfather died early on in his life, and it can be inferred that his senility had a negative effect on the younger generations. Verse 2 explores how his father follows the same cycle as his grandfather, becomes a Pantaloon, and ultimately feeding into the chorus, time has begun to wear down the man and the protagonist of this song as the physical things he used to cherish are deteriorating along with him. You are tired, you are hurt, a moth ate through your favorite shirt, and all your friends fertilize the ground you walk, lose your mind. His friends have long since deceased and are now buried in the ground. He begins to lose his sanity in the bridge. He's seen too many stare-downs between the sun and the moon in the morning air how he used to hustle all the people walking through the fairgrounds. He's been around so long he's changed his meaning of a chair now, because a chair now is like a tiny island in the sea of all the people who glide across the very surface that made his bones feeble. The end can't come soon enough, but is it too soon? Either way he can't deny he is a Pantaloon. Now we move on to the protagonist's life. He has grown old as well, and in his old age, he has become jaded and disillusioned. Everything now reminds him of times past and people lost, and he takes it out on other people. Even if he has second thoughts at the time, he is ready for death because he cannot deny that he has become the same thing he has tried to avoid his entire life. This theme specifically is something that would mirror the eventual lore of the later albums, especially when it comes to the relationship between Clancy and Nico, or Blurryface, becoming the very thing you seek to destroy. The song ends with the protagonist continuing the cycle of fear and nightmares, all under the mask of a jester, or a pantaloon. Addict with a Pen is the fourth song off of the album with a runtime of 4 minutes and 46 seconds. This track is one of the bigger fan favorites from this album, and for good reason, as perhaps one of the more in-depth and lyrically honest. It is a piano-based track filled with a few alien extraterrestrial-like synthesizers. It begins. Hello, we haven't talked in quite some time. I know I haven't been the best of sons. Hello, I've been traveling in the deserts of my mind, and I haven't found a drop of life. I haven't found a drop of you, and I haven't found a drop of water. This song is ultimately a prayer. He is feeling guilty that he has not talked to God in a while and has been struggling in a search for him, and his forgiveness likening it to traveling in the desert without water. The desert wouldn't be as harsh if he had water. The hardships wouldn't be so difficult if he felt God's presence and love. There is only one verse in the entire song, but it's quite lengthy, so bear with me.
I try desperately to run through the sand as I hold the water in the palm of my hand. Cause it's all that I have and it's all that I need. And the waves of the water mean nothing to me. But I try my best in all that I can to hold tightly onto what's left in my hand. But no matter how tightly I will strain, the sand will slow me down and the water will drain. I've been being dramatic and fake. I'm only acting again as an addict to the bed who's addicted to the wind as it blows me back and forth. Spineless and pretend. Of course I'll be here again. See you tomorrow, but it's the end of today, end of my ways as a walking denial. My trial was filed as a crazy suicidal head case.
But you specialize in dying. You hear me screaming, Father, and I'm lying here just crying, so wash me with your water. Let's start at the beginning. If you've ever tried running in sand, you understand that it's quite difficult because the morphing nature of sand, when weight is applied, you start to sink and you have to produce more and more effort to get your feet off the ground. Doing this while holding water in one's hand would add to the difficulty, as you would imagine as well. He's trying desperately to hold on to this water, a symbol for his faith in God as he attempts to traverse this desert, a symbol for his mental health and his difficulties with it. But no matter how hard he tries, it seems as though his faith continues to be shaken and lost in times of difficulty and hardship. Tyler then continues by seeing that perhaps he is addicted to this pain in some chaotic way, that as an addict with a pen, he is able to transform these hard experiences into lyrics for him to share. This is a well he daily comes back to draw from. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Tyler continues to come back and continue to fight even though it seems as though the results are the same every single day. He deems himself a hopeless case regardless of his daily efforts to find the water. However, the track does end with a glimmer of hope. God specializes in dying, an interesting thing to say. Well, specifically in the Christian faith, Jesus died on the cross, alluding to the fact that God is also no stranger to suffering and tragedy, as he himself bore those experiences as well. In a place of surrender, rather than holding tightly and onto a little bit, he asked to be immersed in the waves of water referenced earlier. A full immersion, a baptism, if you will. The song ends, however, right where it began, back to the chorus, continuing the cyclical nature of this song, and cycles being a continual theme in their lyrics. The following footage is actually from a Battle of the Bands competition in Ohio in 2009. And this was actually before the album had even come out. So, just some cool footage. Friend Please is the 5th track, and it's 4 minutes and 12 seconds long. The song is very synth-heavy and features a dramatic shift into a plucky bridge. It's a bit of a roller coaster. Fun fact, it is believed that this is the first song that Tyler ever wrote. This song is about Tyler urging a friend considering suicide to stay alive. Verse 1. I feel for you, but when did you believe you were alone? You say that spiders crawled inside and made themselves a home. Where light once was, petrified of who you are and what you have become. You will hide from everyone, denying you need someone to exterminate your bones. This friend believes they are on an island, separated from others. They do not recognize themselves anymore and feel as though they have become infected with mental spiders, and the only way to get rid of them is to exterminate the whole house, exterminate the full set of bones. The chorus. Tyler urges his friend to remove what is making them blind to reality. He understands and earnestly sympathizes with them that they are not alone, as he emphasizes that they would be taking their life not only away from him, but someone who cares for them. But, as in verse 2, they continue to go about life glossy-eyed and a specter of who they once were, denying their problems and pain and acting as if though everything is normal. The bridge. The night is perhaps the most common motif in the 21 Pilots lyrical repertoire and works as a time and place of the greatest mental strife and struggle. Tyler is wanting this friend to reveal what they are planning to do when the night comes, when the struggles come, to either figure out if they have a plan in place to combat those or if they have some darker ideas in store. He finally resolves to remain with this friend until the night is over, even if it means foregoing sleep and continuing to listen to this friend talk until the sun physically or mentally or metaphorically rises again. March to the Sea is the 6th track on the self-titled record with a runtime of 5 minutes and 31 seconds. Buckle in because we're going to have a bit of a history lesson for this one. During the Civil War, Union General William Sherman took 62,000 men on a march to the sea, quote-unquote, which was from Atlanta, Georgia to Savannah, Georgia. On this march, they quote-unquote smashed things. The goal of this march was to undermine Confederacy morale and civilian support for the South in the Civil War. It essentially debilitated the South and was a major step toward ending the Civil War, as they destroyed everything from military, industrial, to civilian property. This campaign would be turned into a poem and then eventually a song, which details the events as they unfolded in all its destructive, yet successful glory that helped preserve the Union and lead to the freedom of many. This poem would be put into song, of which 21 Pilots' song, March to the Sea, is both musically and thematically very loosely based on.
Our campfires shone bright on the mountain that frowned on the river below.
Like I said, very loosely based on. There's miles of land in front of us, and we're dying with every step we take. We're dying with every breath we make, and I'll fall in line. A stranger's back is all I see, he's only a few feet in front of me. And I'll look left and right sometimes, but I'll fall in line. These lyrics point towards a conformity. We can assume that this is some sort of societal commentary, as the people surrounding him are strangers. Tyler is following society. following the crowd, following the sheep. Occasionally, maybe he'll look around and get distracted by what is beyond the line, but for now, he continues to march. No one looks up anymore because you might get a raindrop in your eye, and heaven forbid they see you cry, as we will fall in line. And about this time of every year, the line will go to the ocean pier and walk right off into the sea, and then we'll fall asleep. The first part of this verse speaks to a lack of vulnerability within society, as especially around the time this record came out in 2009, emotional vulnerability was seen as much more of a weakness as it is seen today within society. This song is a continuation of a musical landscape, as it portrays walking through a desert-like place, similar to Addict with a pin, with water being similarly far off, but always drawing closer. If water is still being seen as an allegory to God's presence, or Tyler's faith perhaps, this line could be also interpreted as if he starts to see the world through water, or God, the world, will judge him for it. And as we near the end of land, and our ocean graves are just beyond the sand, I ask myself the question why I fall in line. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see a spaceship in the sky, and hear a voice inside my head say, "Follow me instead." As he continues to question why he is following everyone else on this march of ultimate self-destruction, he continues to be curious of his surroundings and no longer pays attention to the back of the strangers in front of him. Perhaps the spaceship in the sky is seeing God peripherally, and the voice certainly is a charge from heaven to abandon the line and follow something else instead, to join a different line. Then the wages of war will start, inside my head with my counterparts, and the emotionless marchers will chant the phrase, "This line's the only way." And then I start down the sand, my eyes are focused on the end of land, but again the voice inside my head says, "Follow me instead." As he is charged by God to follow him instead, the world around him instills a vision of doubt and despair, as the line he is currently in is the only way, one way. In my opinion, the line of the marchers is one of nihilism and defeat. Abandoned by all emotion, marching towards their eventual death without rhyme or reason. This line is more enticing, more comfortable for Tyler, as the societal narrative that nothing matters and hopelessness could, in some twisted way, be seen as relief. Still, the voice inside his head tells him to follow him, not the marchers. "Take me up, seal the door, I don't want to march here anymore. I realize that this line is dead, so I'll follow you instead. So then you put me back in my place, so I might start another day, and once again I will be in a march to the sea." Finally, it seems like this UFO takes Tyler back up into the spaceship and gives way to the voice inside his head and abandons the line. He sees the line as destructive. It's very similar to the surrender we see in Addict with a pin. He allows himself to be consumed, to be sealed away or taken away. However, the next day the cycle continues again. But as long as he surrenders before going off the edge of the cliff with the marchers, he can be given the strength to start again. Even if he falls back in line, he cannot stay there long enough to become a victim of the emotionless marchers. Victim to the eventual end result of something like nihilism. The void of life behind a philosophy like nothing matters. Because what is the point of living if nothing matters? We're now at the midway point of the album at track 7, Johnny Boy, with a runtime of 4 minutes and 39 seconds. This is another track that will require a bit of backstory. In 2008, in the United States, the country went through an economic recession because of the housing bubble in the real estate market. This event caused a lot of people around the world, but specifically in the US, to lose their jobs. One of those being Tyler Joseph's dad, Chris Joseph, as heard in this interview.
I think he alludes to me a few times in songs, but one song, it's called Johnny Boy.
Yeah. And
it was at a point where I was in a private school, and this is when the economy wasn't doing well. I was an admissions director, and they needed to, I didn't have that position anymore. They said, "Hey, we got to get rid of this position." And I was without a job for a while. So, you can still collect unemployment. A lot of people were out of work at that time. And that was, he wrote the song Johnny Boy.
So this song is loosely based about his experience watching his father go through job loss and the use of Johnny as the main character is significant as well. Perhaps you've heard of the name John Doe, which is the alias of a normal everyday guy with no importance or significance. It's a placeholder of sorts, a catch-all. This name as the main character is meant so that the charge of the song can be applied to anyone. He stays home from work this time. He never really told his wife. He never really told a lie, but this time he decides that it's all right. No one really knows his mind, and no one knows behind his eyes. The man deserves a medal, but he's never really won a prize before. He goes to lock the door. We flesh out this image of a normal, everyday guy who is upstanding in his relationships, but has never really been recognized for his consistency or dedication. Perhaps decided at a company or by his family members, we're not really sure. I'm also not really sure what the lie he decides is all right could be referring to, so let me know your thoughts if you have any. Here's the chorus. Get up, Johnny boy, get up, Johnny boy, get up because the world has left you lying on the ground. You're my pride and joy, you're my pride and joy, get up, Johnny boy, because we all need you now. Tyler charges Johnny to get up again. No one else is going to do it for him, but the people around him in his life depend on him and treasure him and need him to continue to keep going. Someone said, away you go, and someone said to you, goodbye. They deflect the disrespect when they say they blame it on the times. Because we all know you're qualified to fix a chair and love your wife, and they all know you're qualified, but they lie when they blame it on the times. The people around him of authority, whether at a job or someplace else, come off as disingenuous in letting go of Johnny, as it's just a symptom of the times that they live in, the economic hardships of the society around them. They treat him as a John Doe, like any other person. Johnny is seen as the status quo. But Tyler is charging this individual that although the world may see him as the bare minimum, the people around him are willing to surround him and encourage him to be more than the world is saying, how the world is defining them. The unfeeling, detached world may see him as just another guy, but to his family he is a dependable, loving, hardworking, adaptable, and someone that they're ultimately proud of. It's a charge to not be dissuaded by the callousness of the world and lean on the words and people around you. I don't necessarily believe that this song is completely about Tyler's dad, but I believe that what they experienced as a family together provided a springboard to make this song as an encouragement to people around the world that were dealing with similar situations due to the economic problems of around 2007 to 2009, which was around this time of the album's release.
Yeah, well, it is. It was written to me. I was Johnny Boy. Get up, Johnny Boy, because, and it was during a time where things were tough because, we made enough money to get by. And then I, was unemployed for a matter of months. And he felt his dad. He probably felt insecure seeing that I was, looking for a position, another job. So.
Song. We don't usually play this one live. We're going to do it for you guys. This one's called Oh Misbeliever.
Oh Misbeliever. Oh Misbeliever can be also seen as Misbeliever. It is the 8th track on the album with a runtime of 3 minutes and 37 seconds. The song heavily induces winter themes and vibes and is backed up by sleigh bells to kind of hammer that point home. And this song basically sounds like it's snowing outside. Oh Misbeliever, my pretty sleeper, your twisted mind is like snow on the road. Your shaking shoulders prove that it's colder inside your head than the winter of dead. I will tell you I love you, but the muffs on your ears will cater your fears. My nose and feet are running as we start to travel through snow, together we go. This unbeliever seems to be suffering from anxiety as the imagery generated from these lyrics are something akin to a duck swimming on the surface of water. Calm on the surface, but paddling like crazy underneath. This person is fighting a war in their head, and this is juxtaposed with the quietness and calmness of a snow-covered atmosphere. It seems as though this person's anxiety and fears are rubbing off on Tyler, yet he still decides to fare the snowstorms with this person, determined to walk with this unbeliever through their issues. The chorus of the song is as follows. This chorus is a continuation of the themes present within the Pantaloon of growing older coming with weariness, a decline in mental faculties, and growing emotionally cold. Oh, misbeliever, my pretty weeper, your twisted thoughts are like snow on the rooftops. Please take my hand, we're in foreign land, as we travel through snow, together we go. Misbeliever's thoughts are building up like snow on rooftops. A little bit of snow is not a problem, but over time, as snow accumulates, it can cause roofs not built correctly, or built correctly for that matter, to break and cave in. Similarly, the buildup of negative thoughts and mentalities is eventually going to reach a breaking point with this individual, as it would with anyone. But he is determined to walk with this person through the winter. Even if he doesn't understand his surroundings or exactly what this person is going through, he knows every season must come to an end. He seems determined to walk with this person until their mental winter has officially passed. Aircatcher is the 9th song on the record with a track time of 4 minutes and 14 seconds. This is definitely one of the lesser known songs on the self-titled record, however, it is the first song that Tyler ever performed in a concert setting, according to a video that I can unfortunately no longer show because it's no longer available. But this song is very similar thematically to a track on the preceding album, Regional at Best, called Glowing Eyes. This song is about temptation and slipping into depression. I don't fall slow like I used to, I fall straight down. You've stolen my air catcher that kept me safe and sound. My parachute's what got me safely to the ground, but now my cord's not working and I see you staring me down. This slip into temptation or depression has become easier and easier as this oppressive force has taken away his coping capabilities personified in this parachute. The chorus is what makes me think that this song could also specifically be about depressive spiraling. I won't fall in love with falling, I will try to avoid those eyes. Falling in love with falling, being addicted to one's own sadness. However, he knows the cycle is not healthy and will try to avoid the eyes of this temptation. Avoid being swallowed by the oppression of direct eye contact with this temptress. I think you would beat the moon in a pretty contest, and the moon just happened to be the very first thing that I missed. I was doing fine on my own, and there wasn't much I lacked, but you've stolen my air catcher, and I don't know if I want it back. As previously established, the night is a continual motif for times of difficulty and hardship within the 21 Pilots ethos. Comparing this person or temptation to the moon is comparing it to the light of hope within the night itself. The moon and its reflective properties at night point towards the sun, point towards the coming of a new day, as the moon actually reflects the light of the sun. As this temptation morphs and evolves, it pushes him further away from his air catcher, his parachute. It's distorting his reality and perception as he becomes more disillusioned, and he falls faster and faster. The outro of the song also features all 3 original members of the band singing, one of the only times that this ever happens. Tyler, Nick, and Chris, the original 3 members, only show up together one other time, on the next track, Trapdoor. Trapdoor is the 10th track on the album with a runtime of 4 minutes and 37 seconds. This track is, in my opinion, the most lyrically straightforward compared to the rest of the album, so I won't spend too much time on it. However, I do think it features some of the best vocals from Tyler on the entire album. He wakes up early today, throws on a mask that will alter his face. Nobody knows his real name, but now he just uses one on a grave. As a whole, this song is about falling into the pits of loneliness and despair, while everyone around him seemingly lets it happen or is not trying to help or intervene in some way. I don't fully get what this line about the grave means, but I would like to think that it's about Tyler's life and his time in the band and creating this band, and more specifically, the band name. For those of you who don't know, the band is named after a play called All My Sons, written by Arthur Miller. Set in World War II, the play follows a businessman who knowingly sells defective planes and airplane parts to the US military, which would lead in the eventual death of, you guessed it, 21 pilots. If this song is from Tyler's perspective and his music is his outlet to speak about things he normally wouldn't feel comfortable in doing, it would make sense that the graves of those pilots are what he now goes by. He's seeping his identity in this band as a way to deal with and maybe even deflect some of the problems within his own life. Take me out and finish this waste of a life. Everyone gather around for a show. Watch as this man disappears as we know. Do me a favor and try to ignore as you watch him fall through a blatant trapdoor. As Tyler falls into depression and despair, it seems as though those around him are watching and waiting. The lyrics fostering images of the gallows, as a trapdoor would open to allow for prisoners or criminals to face their death on a noose. This was a popular public event back in the old days, and he is comparing his mental spiral possibly to something public, as a spectacle to those around him. No one is trying to help or save him, watching and waiting for the show. Or, Tyler doesn't want someone to watch him fall through the trapdoor as he asks them to ignore it. The final words of the track, because nobody knows he's alive. The final words of the track imply that although others around him see him maybe as a lost cause and in a situation that he may or may not get out of, he is still alive and still fighting. He is still trying to figure it out, and he is still trying to escape the trapdoor. Unlike Trapdoor, the next two songs will probably require the most amount of explanation out of all the songs on the album. A Car, a Torch of Death is the 11th song on the album and goes on for 4 minutes and 45 seconds. This song is broken up into 3 different sections for each of the subjects in the song's title: A Car, a Torch, a Death. This song is also, in my opinion, the most subjective and confusing of all the songs on the record, but I will give it my best shot. The air begins to feel a little thin as I start the car, and then I begin. To add the miles piled up behind me, I barely feel a smile deep inside me. And I begin to envy the headlights driving south. I want to crack the door so I can just fall out. But then I remember when you packed my car, you reached in the back and buckled up your heart. This is obviously the car section of the song. We see Tyler get into a car, looking back on all the times in the past and realizing that he is feeling pretty numb. The cars driving south could be people in his life or people around him that are living the life that he wants to live, maybe free from the mental anguish and suffering that he has been experiencing across the full length of this album. South as a direction would be used throughout the discography of the band later in their career, as seen in The Judge. A car is also something that would be heavily utilized in the entire lore of Trench and Blurryface as the vehicle by which inner demons take him to places he'd rather not go. Not to mention car radio off a vessel, which, in the absence of his radio, the car becomes a place of isolation and mental confrontation. It seems as though Tyler would rather jump out of his moving car than continue to look at these people passing by. This could potentially be a metaphor for suicidal ideation, but we are then introduced to another character in the story. Some speculate as God or a friend or the fan base as a whole. There is someone or something that has given something to Tyler on this journey he is taking in this car. A heart. They've entrusted him with their heart, and with that, there is some level of expectation that Tyler won't abandon it, or will take this heart to where it needs to go. I like how the pop song professor puts it in this, and this could very well be a metaphor for the fan base. It could be a situation where Tyler is leaving a concert and bringing his fan base with him wherever he goes, at least mentally speaking. He's getting into the car leaving a concert knowing that the people that were impacted by the band's music have to go back to silence and live their lives away from the reprieve that a concert can be. This is a sacrificial love of sort that is keeping Tyler from abandoning this car and the heart in the back seat. And I think that this idea is given further confirmation in the following refrain. For me to drive away with, I begin to understand why God died. In Christian theology, Christ is the one who dies for the sins of the world. It is what sets it apart from all other world religions. That although there is suffering and pain in the world, rather than remain in heaven unaffected, God chose to put on human flesh and dwell among us, and then experience and live a life that would lead to a death that he did not deserve for the love of all mankind. John 3:16 essentially. If you take the second character to be a friend or the fan base, this would make a lot of sense as to why Tyler is becoming overwhelmed with feelings of sacrificial responsibility. He is overwhelmed with feelings of love for a group of people or a person that he understands why someone such as Jesus would be willing to go as far as laying down his life for the sake of another's well being. Onto the torch. The demon sat there waiting on her porch. It was a little dark, so he held a makeshift torch. And when my car was far out of sight, he crept in her room and stayed there for the night. We are now introduced to a third character in the story, a demon. The second person from earlier is supposedly referred to as a female. The torch to me is the most confusing part of the entire song. It seems as though the demon creates a makeshift torch, which is a fire, obviously. Now, fire could be seen as a good thing as it provides light in the darkness of something like night. However, it being a makeshift torch sort of infers something negative, that it is something that is haphazardly put together. In that case, fire would be a dangerous thing. And in this case, the torch could be something destructive. This home, wherever this woman is living, is where Tyler is figuratively or literally driving away from, and when he leaves, the demon stays the night in her home, in her room. The night obviously being a continual motif, the demon was awaiting for this female to come home. This could potentially back up this fan base theory that I was talking about earlier, as this person is returning from being with Tyler and the band at a concert and are coming back to their own problems at their home and their own reality to face and struggle their own inner demons. Onto the death. And then I felt chills in my bones. The breath I saw was not my own. I knew my skin that wrapped my frame wasn't made to play this game. And then I saw him, torch in hand. He laid it out what he had planned. And then I said, I'll take the grave. Please just send them all my way. Now, it seems as though Tyler is confronting this demon, as the breath that was not his own could only have been the demon in this case, I would think. And his skin may not be thick enough to survive this encounter, perhaps. The demon begins to lay out what he has planned for this person, for this woman. Obviously, and probably not great things. To which Tyler responds that he will then take on the trials instead. He will take on the grave. Now, this whole story could be an imitation of what Christ does, or it could be Tyler trying to imitate Christ as he requests that all the people like this woman are to be sent his way. This could be taking some level of responsibility for these people or taking their hardships alongside with them. This more or less introduces the second possibility for what people think this song could be about. It could be a rendition of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. As Jesus faced his arrest and eventual crucifixion, he went away to the Garden of Gethsemane, where he prayed and pleaded with God so hard for his own life that he started sweating blood. This is referred to hematidrosis, where the body is under so much strain that and emotional distress that one begins to sweat blood instead of regular sweat. In these moments, Jesus then submitted himself to become a sacrifice for all instead of pleading for his own life. In a similar fashion, supposedly Tyler is allowing himself, on some level, to go through mental anguish in order to maybe potentially help those through his music and better relate to those individuals. In some ways, this could be seen as a death, as he is purposely subjecting himself to create in a headspace that would produce something that would resonate with people who are dealing with serious issues, whether that be depression, anxiety, or even suicidal thoughts. I see this as the most plausible explanation, as it is something he certainly did to provide the band's most critically acclaimed album, Trench, where he talks about subjecting himself to time in his underground bunker music studio and refused to come up for air until he felt like he had a story worth telling. I believe this is further confirmed in the closing lines of the tract. The air begins to feel a little thin as we're waiting for the morning to begin. But for now, you told me to hold this jar, and when I looked inside, I saw it held your heart. It seems as though Tyler has decided to wait with this person until the morning, the end or pause of mental struggles. He feels as though his audience has entrusted him with their heart, and has chosen to be an aid or outlet in waiting for the morning. This song is truly great and certainly a fan favorite, and I would love to hear what you all think in the comments if I have missed anything or you think it could be interpreted like in another way. If you think about it, and if you've watched my video on the full lore, this story is really a prototype for what exactly happens in the story of Clancy. On to Taxi Cab. Taxi Cab is my favorite song off of this album personally. This is another track steeped in religious undertones and will take a little bit to explain as well. Taxi Cab is the 12th track, clocking in at 4 minutes and 45 seconds. This is a side note and I won't go into too much detail here, but I like to view this as a sequel to A Car, a Torch of Death, as in this song Tyler is in a hearse, supposedly in a state of almost death. If you view this after his quote-unquote death in the previous song, it's pretty interesting to say the least, but let's start at the beginning. I want to fall inside your ghost and fill up every hole inside my mind, and I want everyone to know that I am half a soul divided. These lyrics are obviously talking about his desire for God or the Holy Spirit to mend his broken state and to impact his fragmented spiritual health. These lyrics are interesting as they are some of the first manifestations of what eventually would become the character of Blurryface. A soul divided, a person split. A figure that represents the fear, the insecurity, and instability that Tyler feels as though takes up half of his psyche at times. He feels as though this split personality has fractured his soul and he is asking God to mend the gap between his broken self and a healed mind. Onto the chorus. Sometimes we will die and sometimes we will fly away. Either way, you're by my side until my dying days. And if I'm not there and I'm far away, I will say, don't be afraid. We're going home. This chorus section is definitely up to interpretation, but I view it as him coming to a realization that either in defeat or victory, God is always with him. Or it is God responding to his request in the first verse, saying that he won't forsake Tyler and to not be afraid. I believe this could be seen as a continuation of a first-person narrative, or it could be seen as a conversational piece documenting a back and forth between Tyler and God. Either way, verse 2 continues the first-person narrative. I want to strip myself of breath, a breathless piece of death I've made for you. A mortal, rotting piece of song will help me carry on, but at least you heard. This line is referring to suicidal tendencies and ideation. Tyler's desires to remove breath, which would in turn kill his physical body, obviously. Even then, it is though he recognizes that in some way, whether in life or in death, his body, mind, and soul is a sacrifice. However, his music has given him a way to continue. His outlet and creativity has provided a lifeline to keep going. Referring to his music or a song as a mortal, rotting piece of song is as if he's self-criticizing his own work as not being good enough, not being worthy enough of a reason to continue on and to keep going in his life. Even if it is not viewed as quote-unquote good stylistically or lyrically or whatever, he's content with the faith that his message and his work has been heard by God. That is something that he himself has created. I'm reminded of the following passages because of this line. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. On to verse 3, which is in my opinion the most lyrically rich and spiritually accurate in the whole album. We're going to do this entire verse at once and then break it down piece by piece. So the hearse ran out of gas, the passenger person grabbed a map, and the driver inside it contrived a new route to save the past, and checked his watch and grabbed a cab, a beautifully planned taxi cab. A cab had a cleared out back, and two men started to unpack. Driving once again, but now this time, there were three men, and then I heard one of them say, I know the night will turn to gray, I know that the stars will start to fade when all the darkness fades away. We had to steal him from his fate so he could see another day. And then I cracked open my box. Someone must have picked the lock. A little light revealed the spot where my fingernails had fought. Then I pushed it open more, pushing up against the door. Then I sat up off the floor and found the breath I was searching for. Then there were three men up front, and all I saw were backs of heads. And then I asked, am I alive and well, or am I dreaming dead? Then one turned around to say, we're driving toward the morning sun, where all your blood is washed away, and all you did will be undone. So let's start with the first section with the hearse and the taxi cab. Tyler is presumably in a coffin, in the back of a hearse being driven to what we can assume to be a graveyard or something of that nature. But Tyler is still alive at this point, as each of the verses indicate an aware person retelling this story. This hearse represents death. It represents the end of life, obviously, as it is a vehicle by those who have passed are transported to graveyards or cemeteries or wherever they will be buried. With Tyler's honesty to suicide in the previous verse, we could infer that perhaps this hearse running out of gas could refer to potential unsuccessful attempts or something along those lines. As this hearse runs out of gas, it is revealed that there is a driver of this hearse. In response to the hearse running out of gas, the driver begins a new plan. This plan to save the past. Rather than be defined by what he has done, the driver is working towards a way to redeem Tyler's life. He grabs this taxi cab. And before we continue, let's talk about what a taxi cab is and hint at what it could represent. Taxi cabs are used as a means of transportation to get you somewhere you want to go, simple as that. However, something interesting of note with this specific taxi cab is that it is described as beautifully planned. Now, most of the time, taxi cabs are random or at spots of large foot traffic in order to get more customers. However, this one seems to have been premeditated on its arrival. It appears right when it is needed, right when the hearse is out of gas. Keep that in the back of your mind as we continue. Now, in the taxi cab, there are these three men, besides Tyler in the car. One of the three talks about a time when the night is over, a time when the rising sun will begin to gray out the night sky, and the stars will disappear in daylight. This individual also speaks about saving quote-unquote him, or Tyler, from his fate, furthering the idea that this could be about an attempt on his own life, so he could in fact see this day, see the morning, or see the sun. We then go back to Tyler, who is testing out the integrity of this coffin. The locks keeping him inside have been picked, and he is able to get out of it. This light makes me think that as he is pushing his way out of the coffin, the emerging daylight is showing where Tyler has fought to get out of the box. The lock was already broken, but it was Tyler who had to push open the door. This action, this desire and purposeful leaving of the coffin introduced him to those driving the cab. There are three men driving the car, a reference to the Christian Trinity, and they have given Tyler a new chance at freedom and a removal of shame. They are heading towards the morning, toward hope, toward a hope. At this destination, his wrongs will be made right, and he can begin anew again. So what does this mean? The song has undeniable religious connotations, so I'll analyze it through that lens specifically. The taxi cab is metaphorically a vehicle for salvation. When the hearse ran out of gas, it wasn't random or a last-ditch effort, it was the perfect plan all along. And it came to pick up Tyler when he needed it the most. I view this song as the following. Tyler was on the verge of some kind of what we can assume probably a literal death caused by mental anguish or a suicide sort of attempt. Losing to himself. Right on that line between life and death, something stopped him in his tracks. These three men, the Christian God. God provided a new way with a new destination, a taxi cab, salvation. Maybe this thing that met Tyler in his darkest hour was actually a taxi cab in real life. There's really no way of knowing, but whatever it was, metaphorically or literally, it had showed in the light of day that Tyler not only had fought, but he had a desire to live. The lock on the coffin had been broken. The chains of death had been broken, but Tyler ultimately had to make the decision to choose and leave the coffin. God had already given salvation, but he is not going to force it upon him. He still has to accept it. When choosing to leave this coffin, he finds what he's been looking for all along. Air, reprieve of some kind, a reason to live. Tyler might not have planned to leave that coffin, but the three men up front had always planned to take him to a place of new beginnings, where the past mistakes and actions have been washed away, where he can be made new, where he can continue to stay alive. The second to last track on the album, track 13, Before You Start Your Day, 3 minutes and 53 seconds long. This is another track that will not require a ton of explanation, and it is pretty self-evident. And I'm not trying to be a hater here, but I really don't rock with this song at all. Really any part of it. But hey, if you like it, then all power to you. Open the slits in your face and start your day. You don't have much time to make your slits look just right. These lines are pretty similar to Trapdoor of an individual in the morning going through a routine of getting ready that attempts to hide and mask the pain endured during the nighttime. This is continued in verse 2. Look in the mirror and ask your soul if you're all right. Put on the glitter that your soul hides behind. This individual continues to put on a socially acceptable makeup, so to speak, that hides the darkness inside and its effects on them. This song seems to not be about Tyler, but about someone else, as the chorus suggests. You're in my mind, I'm singing. I honestly don't know what to make of this chorus, but it seems that Tyler is encouraging this person, that he is thinking about them and hoping the best for them as they go through this difficult time. And in the bridge, we see him encouraging this person that they don't need to make themselves into something that they are not. Know you are made holy, open your eyes and see. The clouds above will hold you. The clouds above will sing. Viewed within the Christian lens, all people are made in God's image, in a way reflecting the holiness of God in a way. He's encouraging this person to see that they are made special and made with a purpose. A reminder for them to think about before they start their day. I Love Flightless Birds, it's the final track on the self-titled album and has a runtime of 5 minutes and 45 seconds. And before the release of Paladin Straight off of Clancy, this was in fact the longest song that the band has ever released. This song wraps up what Tyler has been trying to say throughout the length of the album. It is a synopsis and a charge for the listener moving forward as they begin to deal with their own problems in their own lives. Jumping into the pre-chorus. Now is the climax to the story that gives the demons and angels purpose. They fly around while we are walking and mold our emotions just to please them. Throughout the journey of this album, we have reached the end. We have reached the point where a decision is to be made. One that gives purpose to morality and one sense of right and wrong. But this sense of right and wrong seems dependent on something. Emotions. Oftentimes, we can overlook negative or positive actions in our own lives depending on what emotion we can use to justify our behavior. We are stuck on the ground while they are flying around in the air fighting unseen battles. Into the chorus. I am cold, can you hear? I will fly with no hope, no fear. And the ground taunts my wings, plummet as I sing. As the world seems to be stuck on the ground, Tyler is trying his best to get into the air. Although he doesn't seem optimistic that his efforts to fly will result in anything other than plummeting to the ground, just to see what happens. I believe that Tyler's attempt to fly is an allegory for his desire to make music and to make it in that industry. It would be weird for him to ask if you can hear that if he's cold, if it meant anything other than his music being a necessary vessel of communication. He's not fully sure in his ability to make this stream work. And at this point in the band's history, it was probably a serious possibility that he would have to abandon this stream of making music as a career. He sees himself as joining everyone else on the ground, living a quote-unquote normal life, while desperately trying to make his music thing work out. All we are is an isle of flightless birds. We find our worth in giving birth and stuff. We're lining our homes against winding roads, and we think the going is tough. We pick songs to sing, remind us of things that nobody cares about, and honestly, we're probably more suicidal than ever now. If you decide to live by what you think is wrong and what's right, believe me, you'll begin to wish you were sleeping, your weeping will creep in your head, and you'll cry. But if we wake up every morning and decide what we believe, we can take apart our very heart, and the light will set us free. The world is an isle of flightless birds, a bunch of people too afraid to fly and seek out new places. We find purpose in living the cookie-cutter life, the American dream. Get a house, start a family, and settle down. In this place of settlement and contentment, people often line their homes against winding roads. I think that this line is pointing to self-inflicted problems or making problems out of something that aren't that serious. We decide to put our homes on winding roads. We decide to make an unnecessarily big deal about the consequences of our actions. Our entertainment and art is shallow and not even scratching the surface of what works of creativity should invoke. And despite being relatively comfortable, flightless birds, we find ourselves as a society being more mentally unstable and unwell. You would think that with the comparatively unmatched wealth and security of the modern age, that prematurely ending one's life would be an impossibility in someone's mind. It would be the last person someone would think about. But the trend in our society as a whole is trending in the other direction. Here, I believe Tyler is saying that if you go and live your life by an abstract rule of morality, fashionable to change based on any situation, you will fail. If you don't take flight, you will fail. Subjective morality will make anyone act inconsistently, as the main force behind it is personal discernment. Tyler is arguing that the problem with this is that, as people, we are so full of inconsistencies and paradoxes. If we try to live based on what we believe at any given moment, we will ultimately be left in a fractured state, as no concrete moral axiom can hold together ourselves, as it is always changing. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. The alternative that Tyler is providing here is that we must decide in the morning. Decide before the moments in our day force us to betray the integrity of our own subjective morality. Have a central belief that is followed no matter what. No matter how we feel, no matter what is comfortable, we have something that we believe in our life that we abide by no matter what. And in turn, what this does is free us from being dictated by emotions, by our heart. This idea goes deeply with the band's push for people to find purpose and stay alive. And Guns for Hands is another good example of this, and we'll look at that later. How frustrating and so degrading his time we're wasting, as time will fly by. And the sky will cry as light is fading, and he is waiting oh so patiently, while we repeat the same routine, as we will please comfortability. And please think about why you can't sleep in the evening, and please don't be afraid of what your soul is really thinking. Your soul knows good and evil, your soul knows both sides, and it's time you pick your battle, and I promise you this is mine. This is specifically a reference to God, and Tyler is saying that there are people wasting time while God is calling them to a higher purpose. For him, God has been something he can depend on in the nighttime. Everyone will experience hardship in life. Tyler is charging the listener to stop wasting time and find that which you hold most dear before the night inevitably comes again. Stop living life of comfort and complacency with the rest of the flightless birds. Inner conflict might be something you need to listen to, something you need to get to the root of. It's not something to be ignored. We have an inherent built-in sense of morality, going back to the idea in Before You Start Your Day. The Christian idea that we are not only physically made in the image of God, but something deep within us recognizes a divine reality and morality as well. Tyler charges the audience to make a decision and to make a choice. He has made a choice. It's not easy, it is a battle, but his battle is to use his music to push people to purpose, push people to live for something beyond themselves, to fly away from the Isle of Flightless Birds. Coming off of Isle of Flightless Birds and wrapping up this album, I will leave you with the words from 2010 off of the band's MySpace account that I found on the Wayback Machine regarding this album. These songs were a result of struggle. Struggle is something that everyone experiences. Why we all walk around pretending that we don't know is a problem deeply rooted in our human makeup. You will find heavy and dark lyrics strategically disguised by catchy melodies and creative song structures. We would like you to think and write for yourself, writing down what you think is imperative. A human must create. That's why we were created. The act of creativity can often be a painful process, especially when the ideas that are working to be manifested are true deep difficulties within the human experience. I want to go back, as mentioned, to the album cover for a minute. This individual has a lot going on in his head, represented by this toxic-looking sludge and various items and structures. A common message throughout the band's history is redirecting pain, anger, frustration, and turning it into a productive thing. Something that can focus these emotions into something productive, something creative. This is just a theory, but I see this album cover as creativity striking in the most vulnerable moments. After the mind is allowed to excrete all of its waste, oftentimes creative types are brought to inspiration on how to express how they feel through creative work. After the restless hours in bed being tortured by the thoughts and feelings of the mind, it wouldn't surprise me if this is where Tyler found himself, and found his greatest inspiration and drive for creating this album in particular. This light bulb. An idea. This is very early in the band's career, and although Tyler himself has been making music for a little while, now at this point, for himself, he's becoming more focused, more determined, and more serious about his craft. Your soul knows good and evil, your soul knows both sides, and it's time you pick your battle, and I promise you, this is mine.
Okay, my pen's broken this time. Also, I'm sick, so I'm all tangled up too. Anyways, thanks for watching. Sorry it took so long for this to come out. Life is pretty crazy right now, and life is only going to get crazier. But I'm going to try to put out another one soonish. I'm kind of debating whether or not to do regional at best or Vessel next, so you guys can let me know which one you would rather see next. Eventually, I'll combine all of the videos into one large video that'll be a few hours long. I tried to make everything within this album kind of fit the design themes. So if you notice, like, the font is actually, somebody made a font out of Tyler's handwriting, so I used that. And then also any of the footage that you saw of them playing live that I used as kind of a B-roll or a background for songs was performances of that song. For the most part, there were some exceptions, are performances of that song between 2010 and 2012 to 13. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was really old footage, and it took me scouring the internet for a while to find that sort of thing. But I hope you like it. It's not as in-depth or like flashy as the lore video, but I hope to continue making these. I may do some other types of videos here soon. Try to keep it more longer form though. That's what I like to do. But first I'm going to try to get better. We'll see what comes next. I want to thank these people again here for sponsoring me last video. I really appreciate that. I'm not monetized or anything, so I appreciate any of the support you can give. And then if you don't want to support that way, you can just subscribe. I'm going to try to apply for monetization soon. Thank you all for watching this and for watching my videos and getting through them and spending a lot of time with my voice when it's not sounding like this. But I appreciate you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.